And we welcome you to Talk of the Town for this Friday, April the 3rd. I'm Gary Stevens. Open line time following the 10 and 11 o'clock news blocks. And we will also be joined in about an hour with Patty Vandenberg with What's New Around Holland. And we'll also be joined a little more than an hour from now by Mike Gorehouse from the Community Foundation of the Holland Zeeland area. But during this situation that we're in right now with the COVID-19 outbreak, we've had to do some, shall we say, adjusting of things. And one of the things we've learned to adjust and continue to learn a little bit more about is dealing with video situations such as what we have right now, as we are joined via Zoom with Holland Captain of Fire Safety Operations, Chris Tinney, and Holland Department of Public Safety Police Captain Keith Mulder. Gentlemen, you are both on our Zoom connection. Gentlemen, good morning and welcome.
Morning, Gary.
Morning, Gary. How you doing?
We are doing well, and by having this video link up, we can be able not only to chat and do a little face-to-face time with that, but we can also have our callers join in the conversation at 395-1450, 395-1450. And as I normally do when we have guests in the studio, I'll try to direct my questions to each individually so that listeners can know who is actually making the responses. First of all, I'll start with you, Captain Keith Mulder. Since the governor's stay home, stay safe executive order was implemented, the challenges and the rewards or the acceptance of the challenges that have been for the Holland Department of Public Safety's police services since this order began.
Well, the good news is overall our call volume has been down. There's a lot less people out, and yeah, we've actually had a good little time period here for the last week or two where we've had lower calls overall. The other side of that is have been getting a lot of calls about violations of the order, both individuals and companies. So we've been doing a lot of follow-up on those and a lot of work trying to dig into those to determine if there's violations or not, and make contact and give warnings to companies that we believe could be in violation.
How much guidance are you getting, Keith, from either the Ottawa County Prosecutor's Office, from the Stefrance or the Allegan County Prosecutors, or perhaps from the State Attorney General's Office on dealing with these violations?
Mainly, there's some guidelines that have been put out by the state, which have been very helpful, and we have those on our website. We continue to send those out to people. If you go to hollandpd.com, you can find a summary of the stay-at-home safe executive order. It's a really nice one-page summary for individuals. And then if you go to our Facebook page, I have a couple different links on there, one of which is a frequently asked questions for businesses and companies, whether they can be open or not. And what people don't realize is there's just a lot of exceptions to the order. So there's a lot of people that look at it as, safety only and essential as far as life-threatening type of thing. And the order is much more general than that, and it gives exception to quite a few different companies. So we go off those guidelines and off the order itself, and we make determinations if there's a violation or not. And like you say, if you haven't read the order and haven't read all the exceptions, it's really hard to accuse companies that they're in violation, because there are a lot of exceptions.
All right, Captain Chris Tinney, I'll throw the next question to you. The challenges that have been put upon your department since the Stay Home, Stay Safe executive order has been put into place.
We've been not necessarily tied up into the law enforcement end of this. They probably had the bigger challenge with that. But a lot of our time right now has been invested in making sure that we're equipped, we're trained. We've done a lot of intense training over the last couple of weeks. I think we've logged close to 60 hours of training just on response capabilities, PPE, making sure that we're able to safely respond to any calls for service. And again, that's across the board. From what we know, that the concern now is that this virus is actually a community spread virus. It's you're not going to get it from just one person. You're not really going to know where you're going to get. So we're elevating our level of concern, and our PPE ensembles fall along with that to make sure. And when I say PPE, that's personal protective equipment. And we're basically treating every contact, every experience as a potential for exposure. And the reason we do that is we need to keep our personnel healthy so that they can respond. And our neighbors are all going to be challenged with the same thing. I know law enforcement is doing the same thing in their department as well. We're making sure that we're taking a minimal level of PPE to make sure that any contact we're not getting exposed and coming down with an illness. So that's been our primary responsibility right now. And when we get a chance, we could talk about how to engage our community and making sure that we do the best we can to let law enforcement and fire know if you call 911. Make sure that they advise the dispatchers that, they have somebody in the house that's sick, they're sick, what kind of symptoms they have. We're going to respond. We're going to do everything we normally do. It's going to look a little different, and we're going to be able to, we're up for the challenge. And like I said, we've invested a lot of time in the training to make sure we're ready to go.
Do you feel, Chris, that you have enough PPE to handle the situation right now? Or is it a case of, well, we really don't know if we have enough PPE right now?
We've estimated, based on our previous call volume, as Captain Mulder mentioned, call volumes appear to be down in both departments. That is, it's very much like a holiday. If you look at that, I would liken a lot of our call volumes to that when we have a holiday and how they actually call volumes decrease in that context. But the concern we have, we build our response around probably 2 weeks. I think if this extends beyond that and we get a peak, 2-3 weeks, beyond that, we're going to be looking for PPE. There's a big demand for that. I think we're sitting pretty good right now. Our big concern is what everybody calls the N95 masks. And that's a universal concern across the county and throughout the state of Michigan. And a lot of those we're trying to source locally. We're trying to source through donations, really trying to spread them out too. A lot of partnerships going on in the area. I know with the area fire departments, if we're short on one thing, we'll offer them an extra large suit in exchange for, a 4X or something like that. So there's a lot of good synergy going around the area, public and private relationships. And I think that's something we value as an organization too. We really appreciate that.
If you got a question for Holland Department of Public Safety, Captain of Fire Operations, Chris Tinney, or for Holland Department of Public Safety Police Captain Keith Mulder, they'll be happy to answer it at 395-1450, 395-1450. The challenges, and either one of you can answer this, maybe more for you, Keith, than it is for Chris, but I'll ask it to both of you. The challenges that might be faced in terms of taking care of people in the first week plus of May. We don't have tulip time, but nobody told the tulips don't come up this year. People are still going to come, want to see the tulips, maybe feeling that because there'll be fewer people, no formal festival, they're going to say, hey, it's a great time to go to Holland. Not a bad idea, except, with the social distancing and the expected extension of this stay home, stay safe executive order. It's going to be a challenge to make sure that people aren't getting themselves in a risky situation.
Yeah, I agree. As the weather gets nicer, there's benefits to that without a doubt. People are kind of cooped up in their houses when the weather's cold and not so nice. But as the weather warms up and gets nicer, people are going to want to be outside more. I think the key is for people to be outside around their homes and not go into congregating areas into the public parks too much where they're congregating. Obviously, the parks are still open for hiking and exercise, which is great, and we encourage people to do that. Just avoid the congregating and meeting people there because that's where we're going to have issues with the spread getting worse. And that's where we're also going to have issues where the parks are saying, the state park, I know, is saying that they're going to just shut them down if people keep congregating in the parks. So we hope with the warm weather that doesn't happen. We're definitely concerned about that happening. But yeah, we do look forward to the ability for people to be able to get out of their houses a little bit more and be in the outside fresh air.
Chris Tinney, I'm going to throw this question at you about what Captain Mulder just said about people being more in their houses right now wanting to get out. We have, of course, in October, the great awareness about fire safety with, of course, the anniversary of the Chicago fire and the Holland fire as well. And we have, of course, some concerns during the holiday season with fire concerns about Christmas time and Christmas lighting and the stuff like that. you get a sense that perhaps the concerns that people are in their homes more often, that you might be getting more runs because of residential calls than anything else?
Yeah, I think that's something we're preparing for. The context of our operations have really changed. Anytime you have people, that's their place of residence. That's the place they feel comfortable. They're there more often. That means they're going to be cooking at home more. It's going to be, they're actually living in that home, smoking, all those factors that that contribute to fire causes are probably going to be more prevalent. We've pushed out some messaging that suggests we really want people to, if you are in your homes, make sure you do us a favor. Let's not lose track of, we've got the COVID-19 concerns, but let's not lose track of the fact that you need working smoke alarms, CO monitors, and those types of things in the home, because I would suspect the risk, or the fire potential, not the risk, but the fire potential could be slightly higher just because we're occupying our homes more frequently. So
now, let us tell people that we are with you today with Holland Department of Public Safety Captain of Fire Operations Chris Tinney, along with Holland Department of Public Safety Police Captain Keith Mulder. If you have a question for either of these gentlemen, they'll be more than happy to give you the response at 395-1450, 395-1450. Question I've asked both of you right now, and I'll have both of you sort of answer this within the sphere of your operations. We've talked in the past about dealing with some of the mental stress that does come with as part of the job and under normal circumstances. How much of an extra concern have you seen from the men and women working under you and working with you about this COVID-19 situation and being exposed, being possibly infected because of the course of their work?
Yeah, I think for us, it's kind of been across the board. You have some people that are very concerned about possible contamination and possible, risk that they have, especially being out in the community and making contact with a lot of people that they don't know. There's other people that aren't that concerned about it and just handle it differently. So we're kind of across the board, and we've been making steps every, a couple times a week. We're making changes around here of trying to deal with the concerns and trying to limit our possibilities of exposure, not only with the community, but also with each other between our shifts. So we've made some adjustments to officers' schedules and tried to separate different groups of our staff so that we don't have the risk of one shift contaminating another shift if they do get exposed. And that's been just a lot of changes for people. And I got to say that our officers have responded just really well and been very willing to step up to the challenge and adjust their schedules and kind of work their family life around what we need to do. And we really appreciate that. All of our staff has just been outstanding in that area.
Chris?
I would suggest the same thing. I think the consensus around the fire division is that this is what we're trained to do. This is what we're preparing to do. We combat any concerns through education and offering, I would say probably some of the best or the most practical PPE solutions we can get. I think it's also going to be a function of how long this goes and how severe it is. We're always on guard. We're always watching our people. That's our most important resource. And we have mechanisms that are available and at our disposal to make sure that we're keeping them tuned up. And we do address mental health issues. The department, I know both divisions actually have peer support teams, and those are great value when these incidents either take on a severe tone to them or they become protracted. And I think the longer the concern is going to be the longer this goes, and we're really in an abnormal condition right now. We've turned everything upside down. We've changed the way we train. We've changed the way the stations come together. In fact, we try to keep stations separated now, very much like they're doing over at PD. And we're doing a lot of things just that are not normal. And I think we've got this issue. Everybody else has the issue too. But I would say that we're mentally prepared. We're fit. This is what we train to do, and I think most people are on board with that. And again, there are a couple that we address those concerns and we work with them. So, but I think the Holland community can be very proud of the public safety that they get out of these two organizations, and I credit that to people like Keith Mulder, our chief, allowing us to make sure we're prepared and go into battle, if you will.
Let's talk about prevention efforts. We'll start first with you, Chris, about fire prevention. And I sort of alluded a little bit earlier about the fact that people are inside more often, and the awareness needs to go. It needs to be continued and maybe even heightened.
I believe so. Anytime, you can become complacent in your own home. That's the place you're the most comfortable. And it's important to understand, review those things that are important to make sure you increase the survivability in your homes. We always want to recommend that you test your smoke alarms, check them, make sure they're there. If not, pick one up if you can. I know it's probably going to get hard to get out there and get them. Make sure that you're not overloading circuits. I mean, it might be appliances and other things. We're using extension cords now, but we got maybe 3 TVs going instead of 1 because everybody's home. I know we had that in my house. My son came back from college and he's rearranging everything. So we had a discussion about this too. Just be careful with extension cords. Have an escape plan. I know that sounds like something we deal with our kids in the schools, but I think it's really important that everybody thinks about that. We're really trying to get people to close before you doze. I know we've talked about this in the past. If you're in your bedroom, there is livable space behind that door. So try to sleep with the door shut. What that does, that creates searchable space. So we might have a fully involved house, but if you're safe in that bedroom, there's techniques that we can utilize to get around the back of the building and jump in the window and actually pull people out. So we're finding that's, we've changed a lot of our implementation with tactics that way too. But the other thing is smoking. There's still a lot of people out there that smoke. We see people throwing cigarettes out in all kinds of plastic items. Those need to be in a non-combustible container, probably disposed of outside in another metallic container, just so we don't have a problem there. But that's a bit for fire prevention, but I think there's a lot of things they should be doing just to prevent the virus too.
And then I will direct that question to Captain Keith Mulder.
Yeah, for us, one of our biggest concerns with everybody being inside and being in a different routine right now is family and domestic situations. Typically, when we have, long holiday weekends, we see the same thing. We see an increase in domestic type of calls and family disputes. And I think this is going to be no different, even worse. I think the longer this goes, the more risk we have of dealing with an increase in those. So I encourage people to come up with unique activities and do fun activities together. Like we talked about, get outside. My neighborhood, I've seen more people walking than I've ever seen in my entire life. It's great. And I think that's important to do some exercise as a family. Get out and do some hiking, just walk around the block, go to parks, play games in the house. I think those are all great ideas just to help us have fun together and do different situations versus just, trying to put up with each other and having a lot of screen time and being annoyed with each other. That's something that we don't want to have happening.
Oh, no, not indeed. Peg McNichol has a question from the newsroom.
If you haven't already answered this, we have a lot of questions about this $1,000 fine. And someone asked me privately in an instant message, hey, are they going to fine us for walking around or riding our bikes? And I understand recreational driving or motorcycling is a no-no. Can you talk about it? My understanding is you guys don't want to hand out citations for $1,000 fines.
Yeah, no, that's correct. There's a rumor that started right away, and I don't know if that's still circulating, that we're going to be pulling people over and just randomly asking you where you're going. That's the only reason we're pulling you over. And that's not what we're doing. I know in Ottawa County, that's not what any of the departments are doing. And like I referenced earlier, there's a nice one-page summary on our website that you can see kind of what you can and can't do as an individual. And just, the big thing is if you have a reason that is allowed by the executive order to be out and about, that's totally fine. And one of those reasons can be going to the park, going for exercise, going to the grocery store, going for your prescriptions. And some people, it's going to work if they're considered an essential workforce. So there's a lot of reasons that people can be out. Yeah, we even allow media people to radio broadcasters.
Thank you very much.
So essential,
Thank you very much.
But there's a lot of reasons that people can be out. But on the other side of that, we also just ask and encourage people to pay attention to that order and not just be out for no reason. And one of the things that we get the most complaints about and we have to look into is people getting out to socialize and go to other people's houses and congregate. Those are the reasons that are not allowed. And we just ask that people abide by that rule so we don't have to get into an enforcement situation, because we really don't want to go there. We really don't.
Keith, I'll finish up our conversation this way. Again, what is the website for answering some of the frequently asked questions during this stay home, stay safe executive order?
Yeah, the easiest way I can tell you is we get them emailed to us. This frequently asked question thing from the state has been updated every few days. On our Facebook page, I have a link to it. That's the best way I can tell you how to get to it. So if you click on our Facebook and just Google Holland PD, and you can scroll down, you'll find the frequently asked questions for businesses, and it's on the michigan.gov website. But there's a link on there. You click on that, you can see it for companies. And if you go to our hollandpd.com website, you'll see the summary for individuals. That is a nice one-page summary.
Keith Mulder, police captain, and Chris Tinney, captain of fire operations with the Holland Department of Public Safety. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us today via Zoom. We are not only going to have this podcast on our website at WHTC.com, we'll upload it in a little while, but we'll also upload our little video session, and we'll have that on our Facebook page a little bit later on today so that people can see us in action, but also get some very important tips during this very important time in our lives right now. Keith, Chris, thank you very much for joining us today on Talk of the Town.
Thank you, Gary. Appreciate the opportunity.
And that is the Holland Department of Public Safety Police Captain Keith Mulder and Holland Captain of Fire Services Chris Tinney. We do have CBS News with Peter King coming up. Peg has WHTC News. A little bit open line time after that. Patty Vandenberg at the bottom of the hour with the what's new around Holland. And then we'll be chatting with Mike Orhouse, the president of the Community Foundation of the Holland Zeeland area. WHTC Talk of the Town, 99.7, 1450 WHTC. CBS News is next on the hour.